Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, depending on where you're at. I'd like to welcome you to today's Service Management Webcast. Just a couple housekeeping items. We are recording today's session, and everybody came in on mute. If you could keep your lines on mute while we're recording or while the speaker's speaking, that'd be great so we get a clean recording. We got a small enough crowd here today that if you want to ask questions, I'm sure Carol's going to be welcoming those. You can go ahead and use #6 to unmute your line. Again, #6 will unmute your line, and then *6 will mute your line again. So again, stay on mute when you can. Otherwise, you can use #6 to unmute. You can also use the Q&A feature. Just make sure to ask to everyone. And the Q&A is there for asking questions as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce Carol here from Product Management. And she's going to be talking to us about the new defect resolution process for service management. So with that, I'll give it over to Carol.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone, and nice to be speaking to you today. I will say right up front, I'm going to ask that you hold your questions till the end, just so you can see the whole presentation. It's not that long, so we'll get to Q&A pretty quickly. So if you can do that, that would be great. And again, for those of you who I've not come across in the past, my name is Carol Piccus. I'm currently a product manager within the service management space, but I've been around the solution for quite a while, so I have likely crossed paths with some of you in my various roles at CA. So as we talk about this, the really important thing to know is we do follow Agile principles. We are constantly looking at ways to how do we improve how we operate, how can we move more quickly, how can we move in such a way that's addressing our customers' needs and hitting the right level of quality that's needed out of the solution. So, while what I'm presenting today is what our current rolled out process is, this is always subject to change, and we will listen to your feedback and adjust what makes sense. So as we move along here, I'll get into the deck. Get my presentation going. There we go. So I'm going to talk about 14.1 right now, and then at the end I'll talk about 12.9 and 17. So with 14.1 and really across the board, our focus is on delivering fixes in a cumulative manner rather than on a regular schedule. So yes, we've done cumulatives before, but they've been kind of the scheduling of that has been all of a sudden there's a cumulative that pops up and, it doesn't necessarily something you can plan for. So we're looking at doing this on a 6-month cadence. So that way you'll understand, this is the last cumulative. That means the next cumulative will be 6 months out. And that'll help you be able to better prepare and plan around when those cumulatives will be ready. And we will be doing critical fixes in between the cumulatives, but anything that's more minor, we will hold off and have those in the cumulatives, and there's some reasons behind that. So let's talk about the why. So a big reason we're making this change to a regular cumulative cadence is quality. When we do a cumulative, we do a full regression test across the product. Point fixes, when they're delivered to you, they get really focused testing, but it's just focused on that immediate area where that particular defect was found. So we miss the ability to understand how it looks in the bigger picture. We miss, some of the deeper regression testing that would normally happen when it goes through a full QA cycle. So what this means for you is higher level of quality of the fixes for those defects. This also leads into the portability for you and for us. This is fewer updates for you to apply, fewer situations where what's the order of the fix? Getting those fixes applied in the correct order. You all love applied PTF, I know. And it gets rid of the conflicts between fixes. So I put a fix in and it breaks something that was delivered earlier. So by testing these fixes all together, we're able to address those issues before the cumulative goes out the door. With the regular schedule of the cumulatives, you'll be able to better plan, because we know this does take some time. It takes a little bit more testing on your part as well. So knowing that schedule helps you be able to do your planning. And by having you at a cumulative level that's at the latest, that helps us reproduce the issues that you report to us, and it makes it so we can actually respond to those and identify the problem and get the fix out faster and more accurately. And the other thing is this is a unified solution approach. So when we deliver a cumulative, it is across the service management stack. So that's your service desk manager, catalog, and asset portfolio management. And then the cumulative will be using the same installer that you've been seeing for the value packs on 14.1. So that's a much simpler patch application than a bunch of applied PTF. So let's talk about the what and the when. So this, as I mentioned, this is Service Desk Manager, Service Catalog, and IT Asset Manager, specifically Asset Portfolio Management. Software Asset Management has its own, it already does a cumulative process, and it will remain on its current process. The cumulative patch, this will be a cumulative across the entire release. So regardless of what level you are today, if you are base 14.1, if you're 14.1 with the value pack 1 plus miscellaneous fixes, or whatever combination you might be, all the way through value pack 3 with a bunch of fixes, you'll be able to apply the next cumulative. And that first cumulative, I'll just jump down to that last bullet, so that would be 14.1.04, and we're anticipating that at the end of June, so coming up just in about a month. And in between the cumulatives, we're going to deliver what we call roll-ups, because we know that critical fixes can't wait 6 months. So again, the idea here is instead of having a bunch of individual fixes, that we will pull those together into a single fix. So again, making sure that we reduce the issues of what order do I put the fix in, conflicts between patches, et cetera. And then one other thing I was going to note, for those of you who've been following along, in 17.0 we introduced an upgrade utility specifically around Service Desk Manager to help with release upgrades as well as patch upgrades, to make sure that if anything included a change to one of the screens or the database schema, that it helps identify those changes and merge the combination of our changes and your changes together. So that upgrade utility is actually going to be packaged with this cumulative coming up, so you can start using that in 14.1 as you apply your cumulative, again, to make that process easier. So let's walk through what this looks like from a diagram perspective. So again, regardless of what level of 14.1 you're on today, when the cumulative comes out, it'll apply to any of that level. And again, all code changes since that GA release. Once that goes out, the next thing we'll be delivering will be what we call a roll-up. So that's going to be what we consider these critical defects, and we'll be working with you to understand what those are. We look to doing that every other month. So that gives us time to pull them together, do a little bit deeper testing than an individual fix would get, make sure that they all work together, and release that. 2 months go by, we'll do another roll-up. So for example, we have the cumulative patch that will come out midsummer, so let's say that comes out June 30th. Then probably around the end of August, we'll have another cumulative, actually a roll-up patch, and then maybe another one around end of October. So those dates are a little fluid, but it'll depend on where we stand with the fixes and what we're trying to pull together. But when we deliver that second roll-up, it will actually include everything that was in the first roll-up. And we will remove the first roll-up from our download site. So if you needed to go out and get a fix that was in either level, when you pull roll-up number 2, it will contain all those fixes that have been done since the last cumulative. And then finally, we'll get to that 6-month mark, and we'll do the next cumulative, and that will include everything to date for that release. Now, we will note on the bottom of this, for sub-1 situations, these aren't going to wait for a roll-up or for a cumulative. Those will get addressed right away. And fixes that are provided in such a way will make it also into the next roll-up or cumulative as appropriate. So let's talk real quick about 12.9 and 17, and then we'll get to Q&A. So with 12.9, we're going to continue to provide individual fixes for Step 1 and Step 2 issues. As of now, anything that's a Step 3 or Step 4, that we will make sure that those are fixed on 17 and the 14.1 branches. We're not going to do Step 3 and Step 4 fixes for 12.9 at this point because we're hoping that as you as our customers are starting to look at upgrades given our end of support notice that's coming, that we've released. So that's coming up March of next year. But we will continue to do the Step 1, Step 2 issues. And we anticipate doing a final cumulative on 12.9 early next calendar year, just to help, for those of you who have going to take a little bit longer to get off of 12.9, it'll help stabilize that release for you. In terms of 17, we're actually planning to do a faster cadence. So we're looking to do a quarterly cadence for 17, and part of the difference here is just really the things that we've been improving on the back end in terms of how we can produce these fixes and do the validation process, as well as the utilities that are provided to you to do that update. And we've made a lot of improvements in 17 around that, so that we expect that's going to allow us to do a quarterly cumulative. And as such, we don't expect to be doing roll-ups because that's a faster cumulative pace. But much like with what we just showed with the 14.1 process, those sub 1 supercritical issues will get point fixes in the interim between the cumulatives. The first cumulative for that, we're expecting that to be sometime this fall, so we haven't set a date for that yet. It'll initially probably be a little bit off cycle from 14.1, but that's just because we just released 17.0 and it's not out there long enough to get the first cumulative out the door this summer. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions and answers. So please, feel free to either take yourself off mute. I'd love to talk to you, or put your questions out in the Q&A if you're not wanting to talk in person. Your choice, please.
So everybody, just as a reminder, #6 should unmute your phone. I don't think we have any shy folks on here, so if you just use #6, you should be able to unmute yourself. Otherwise, you can also use the Q&A. Just be sure to ask the question to everyone.
And while we're waiting for questions to come through, I will point out we will repost or refresh on the blog post that I put out a couple weeks ago. That includes links to the wiki that goes into more detail about what's a Step 1, what's a Step 2, what qualifies for an individual fix versus the roll-up, et cetera. So it's much more details there as well. But we wanted to offer you this chance to review it in person and ask any questions.
Again, folks, any questions out there? #6, unmute your phone. I don't know, Carol, you might have covered it too well.
That'd be great. And like I said, this is recorded, so we will be posting this so you can go back and review it. And if you have questions later, feel free to comment on the blog that we posted out there. We'll handle Q&A that way, or you can reach out and contact me directly. It's pretty easy to find. In fact, we can even bring up, let me just move the slide to the last one here. For those of you who don't know how to reach me, that is my contact information.
Okay, last chance for questions for Carol. If not, there's, okay, question from Lindsay.
Okay, hi Lindsay. Haven't talked to you in a while. So will the new cumulative have to be applied to all components at the same time? And yes, that is what we're looking to do. You don't have to. I mean, you can choose when you're doing the value pack installers what is being applied at any given time, but we would recommend that you bring them all up to the same level at the same time. So maybe that's over the course of a few weeks as you do piece by piece. So yes, you can do them individually, but we would really recommend that you get them all leveled up together as quickly as possible.
Great. Any other questions, folks? Okay, well, it looks like we hear somebody on the line.
Yeah, I have a question. If we skip cumulatives, and say we skip the first one after 2 months and we go and take the one that's at 4 months, will it include the 2-month cumulative?
So here, I'll bring back the diagram just so we can use that as a reference point.
Okay.
So the blue box is the cumulative. So let's say you don't do the cumulative that comes out this summer, but we get towards the end of the year and there's another cumulative coming out. You can go to this cumulative from whatever level you are on 14.1.
Okay.
So the one exception, so the one exception I wanted to bring out are the roll-ups. The roll-up will require that cumulative. So if there's a fix that you need that's being released in this particular roll-up, and you can't wait until the next cumulative, then it will require that you apply the cumulative that it's based on.
How about the roll-ups? If I skip the first roll-up and I go to the second one, does that include the first?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, great question. Let's see, I see some more popping into the Q&A. So I note that for customers who do not have a full panel that's process automation license, the patches for them are not available online. That means the patches for process automation. And that is true. Process automation has its own bill of materials, and its patches are handled separately. All we do with service management is do certifications at release levels against process automation. But if there's some concerns there, Chris and I can follow up with the product management for process automation in case you're having problems getting to those patches. Is that the issue, Lindsay? Okay. Certainly. I will make a note to follow up with them and get back to you.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions, folks? Or comments? Okay, with that, I think that does it, Carol. Thank you very much, folks. We will be posting the recording once it's ready for upload to the community site, so you can share it with folks. Let's see, Carol, will we be able to post a PDF of the presentation?
Yes, I'll go ahead and post that as well. So we'll have that as well as the recording. And
perfect.
Again, you guys know how to reach me. Please don't be shy.
Well, thank you, everyone. And that concludes today's webcast. Have a great rest of your day and the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.